Why, for instance, the longer time frame and wider decision-making horizon makes a group, a society, a nation more sustainable. And let me begin with a small example I promised I will tell you today about Japan. In 1866-67, after Meiji Restoration, the thinkers in Japan got together under the guidance of the ruler of that time, and they said, let us study how people educate their children in different parts of the world. So they sent different delegations. One delegation went to Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone at that time had a university which was called as Oxford of that region of Africa. They went to India, China, Europe, US, all over the world. Came back and wrote a report called as 200-year perspective plan for education of Japan. 200 years. Imagine. Have you ever come across a plan of 200 years? No. This, to me, was the first long-term plan designed by a working group created by the ruler. What did it lead to? It led to, as I said yesterday, 100% literacy by the turn of the century. India is still not 100% literate. Indonesia, Malaysia are about 80%. South Korea is about 90%, because there are still some old people left who were not educated. Japan was the first country which became 100% literate. So the power of long-term vision is enormous. So yesterday when I said that if you could think for 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years, we would not be doing some exceptional task, because people have done that. When we looked at the social capital, the ethical capital, natural capital and intellectual capital, the interface of these four capitals, it was obvious that people had applied a lot of mind to devising those rules which generated in the society, among the masses, a sense of responsibility, not only for the near future but for the distant future. So this is a doable task. It is a project that is worth undertaking, and I intend to take that project up, and we'll discuss how this has happened in long past and how it has happened in recent past. So before I proceed with the key contrast in the way knowledge is obtained, the way feelings evolve in the mind, and the way actions take place among people who live basically close to nature, or at least dependent on nature, and those who essentially live through and for and with the help of markets. Although there is a lot of variability within the market system. Let me show you a few examples of how this problem has been tackled. So we met this lady in Champaran, Ramkumari Devi, during our Shodhyatra there, and she had a beautiful artwork on the grain bin. This is a grain bin. So we asked her, because we hadn't seen such a grain bin in the entire 175 kilometer of walk, not in Champaran, never before, and in fact never afterwards. This is the only grain bin that I have seen with such a wonderful exquisite artwork. So the question was, why did she do it? And she said, what else could I have done it? What else could I have done? मैं और क्या करती? What should I have done? I only know this. So she was a bit apologetic. She thought she had broken a rule. But she said, I don't know any other way. So we said, no, don't feel apologetic. What you have done is extraordinary. And who did you learn from? So of course she had learned it from her mother. But we asked ourselves a question, why is it that having walked for more than 4,000 and odd kilometers in the last 13 years, we have not come across this kind of a great wind. We have come across other kind of creativity. I'll show you in a minute. So that means that in a very large mass society, there are individuals who have the courage to break out of these social expectations. So expectations are that you will do what everybody else does. That's what the expectations are. Everybody thinks that's the right way to do. That's what every profession unfortunately reinforces. You have to do a PhD, you have to do a FPM. All right, many students have done like that. You also do like this. Why are you trying to be so different? What's the problem? And you ask yourself, but what is the problem? The problem is that you are wired differently. Your expectations from yourself are different. And your expectation from yourself lead to a paradox of this kind. There was no other variable which was making her crazy except her standards of what she thought was acceptable. Now, why do people make such standards? What is the process in the society which enables some people to raise such standards of self-evaluation? They turn out to be genius. There must be some reason, isn't it? And I think there is something that all of us need to know. There must be some process. So, I won't go into this. Many of you know about Honeybee Network. Just a point that the nameless, faceless person comes in contact with the network, gets an identity. Now, it's very interesting. When this logo was being designed by a class of NID students, this dot was not there. So the class made a presentation. I was sitting there, and they told me how honeycomb, this, that, and I said there is something missing. I don't know what. So Professor Shah, M.G. Shah, was sitting there, the senior professor of design. He said, Anil, why are you so uncomfortable? He said, look, I like it, but I'm not able to say what is missing, but there's something fundamentally inadequate in it. I can see the absence of something, but I don't know what it is. He got up from his chair, went to the board, and put a dot here. He said, is it okay now? I said, absolutely. Now the story is complete. That dot, I didn't know what had to be done, but I knew something had to be done. But now it becomes a story. Anonymity, nameless, faceless, network, identity. Now I asked myself a question. As a designer, as a professor, as a scholar, as an artist, he could internalize my inadequacy, my problem. He could feel it. He felt it intensely. He went through the same uneasiness that I was going through. We discussed yesterday about Samvedana. So he realized that despite the fact that the class has done such a hard work, Anil Sinha was sitting there, faculty of design, who recently came out with a beautiful book on identity. The whole class was perplexed. Why is this professor unhappy? And I said, I don't know. I'm talking of more than 20 years ago or 18 years ago. So, not knowing what it is not a bad thing. But feeling the need of knowing is a good starting point. I didn't know what I wanted to know. But I knew that there was something I wanted to know as far as the design was concerned. And there are such moments all of us go through. One way to deal with that moment is to pick up a phone and talk to somebody and dissipate that energy, as Anamika does very often. Or go to YouTube and listen to some song and fritter away that tension. A lot of young people today realize the tension, but just when the tension is increasing, they release it. and then discovery doesn't take place. So the trick I can share is to fight the tendency to distract, which is so high at that time. We get all the reasons in the world why we should now take a little time off. We have worked so hard. Since morning I have not done this. I must take a cup of tea. Not at that moment. Not at that moment. So my assumption is that the moment of breakthroughs which occur, and this was a moment of breakthrough, the moment of breakthroughs can occur in everybody's life, every day. If only that tension which builds up because of inadequacy about not knowing what to know, but feeling the need for it, can be lived through. Once you live through it, something happens. I cannot explain the reason for it, but it happens. It always happens. So let me show you this. Now I am sure you know where this picture is taken from, except those I have told. Anybody else knows where this picture is from? Huh? No, but which context? I mean, yeah, you're right, Jaisalmer, but which context? Incredible India. Now India must be incredible, isn't it? What is it used for? And to attract the... Think for a minute now. First question is it beautiful or ugly? Huh? No, honestly. It's beautiful? All right. We are getting into the theory of aesthetics now. We are going to discuss the theory of aesthetics. All right, it is beautiful because it looks nice, symmetrical. There's a rhythm in it, right? What is this lady doing? She's carrying water. If you were in her place, would you still feel it beautiful? Huh? You will feel beautiful?
Maybe.
If you have walked for 3-4 miles, carrying a water on your head?
Depends on our internal mindset.
Yeah. That's how the men have always explained. Why women suffer so much? Because they enjoy it. Yeah, that's a very manly statement. They enjoy it. They love to suffer. They are made that way. No woman would enjoy under the sun. It's just daylight, hot summer, carrying water on her head for 5, 7, 10, 7 miles at least. It's not fun. It's not funny. It's not joyful. Right? So when we look at this and we say, all right, come all the tourists of the world and see the shame of our nation. Can I say that? That this country doesn't care. Doesn't care if millions of women have to carry water on their head for decades after decades of independence. Doesn't matter really. Come and see how indifferent, insensitive and disrespectful we are to the human dignity. Isn't it true? If you come to think of it now? Yes.
I have an anti-argument here.
Yes, please.
I think it's where the culture comes from. The struggle within. The very fact that she's doing something like that actually defines her struggle. And probably according to me, that's where the culture comes from. One point of view.
No, you are right. The culture of submission, culture of conformity, culture of compliance, culture of congruence comes from this. You are right. Because she will not protest. Have you ever seen a strike of women because they have to carry water for long distance against their husbands or the village communities? Not a single strike in this country. That's the culture. Culture of submissiveness. Culture will tell you, but that's the way it is. What's wrong? Our mothers, grandmothers have done it for ages. Are you special? Are you so special? Why?
No, I'm not comfortable. It's because I certainly feel that this is where the strength comes from, not the submissiveness. It's me.
No. But the strength in terms of being able to bear this struggle without giving up hope that someday